4 police officers. It happened this morning. Authorities say a single gunman burst into a coffee shop near Tacoma and opened fire, killing 4 officers who were preparing for their day's work. The incident carried out in front of horrified coffee shop workers and customers. The suspect is now on the run. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Banderas.
And I'm Greg Jarrett. Authorities are calling this incident a flat-out targeted ambush, an execution, and the victims, all police officers, 3 men and a woman.
On November 29th, 2009, 4 Lakewood police officers, Sergeant Mark Reniger, 39, Ronald Owens, 37, Tina Griswold, 40, and Greg Richards, 42, were in the Forza coffee shop located at 11401 Still Street South, number 108, in Pierce County near Tacoma, Washington. Sergeant Reniger, with 13 years of police experience, was married and had 3 children. Officer Owens, a divorcee with 1 child, had 12 years of police experience. Officer Griswold was a wife and mother of 2, had been in police work for 14 years. And finally, Officer Owens, who was both a husband and father to 3 children. Maurice Clemens, a multi-time convicted felon from Arkansas, who is now living in Washington State, had for weeks told family and friends he was going to kill police officers. When he talked of shooting police officers, he called them bitches. Clemens was facing a slew of criminal charges in Washington, including rape of a child. Darkus Allen, a fugitive wanted in connection with a Little Rock bank robbery, and a friend of Clemens since their time spent together in an Arkansas State prison, was the wheelman on the 29th. The following account of what transpired over the next 2 days comes from Jonathan Martin and Ken Armstrong, reporters for the Seattle Times. On the 29th, the pair cruised around looking for police officers as Allen drove south on Still Street when Clemens spotted several police cars outside the coffee shop. The truck drove past the coffee shop before Clemens told Allen to turn around. They headed back, and as the truck approached the strip mall, Clemens got out and walked towards the coffee shop armed with a Glock Model 17 9mm semi-automatic pistol and a Smith & Wesson .38 caliber revolver. Inside the coffee shop, the chime for the front doorbell rang. Clemens poked his head in and looked around. Inside were 2 employees, 2 civilian customers, and the 4 police officers. 3 of the officers sat together at a table, and the 4th officer was standing at the counter placing an order. Tina Griswold, eating a cinnamon roll, hadn't been scheduled to work, but had volunteered to pick up another officer's shift to make extra money for Christmas. Mark Reniger, a former Army Ranger and one of the state's top SWAT team instructors, worked on a laptop. So did Ronald Owens, a former state trooper. The 4th officer standing by the counter was Greg Richards. Clemens was carrying a newspaper. He walked into the middle of the shop with 3 police officers to his side and Richards in front. He reached for one of his guns, pulling out the 9mm. Without a word, he started firing. As best police can tell, Clemens' first shot hit Griswold from maybe 2 to 3 feet away. A bullet to the back of the head that killed her instantly. His second shot hit Reniger in the temple, fatally wounding the officer. With 2 officers down, Clemens turned to shoot Owens, but the 9mm jammed. Clemens tossed it aside and pulled out the revolver. Owens ran from the table, grappling with the muscular Clemens. Richard at the counter started running towards the 2 as they knocked over tables and chairs, with Clemens continuing to fire, spraying bullets through the cafe. One of the rounds hit Owens in the head. He collapsed in the middle of the coffee shop. The battle came down to Richards and Clemens, and it was fierce, with Richards disarming Clemens, knocking the .38 away and drawing his own weapon, a .40 caliber Glock. Together, the 2 pitched towards the entrance, slamming into the front door's frame. Clemens grabbed for Richards, ripping off his holster belt. The 2 wrestled over the Glock, fighting for control, and during the struggle, the gun fired twice. One bullet hit Clemens in the back, near his right armpit. The other bullet hit Richards in the head. Richards, the 4th and final officer, hit the floor and died on the sidewalk, his head just inside the door. Clemens staggered from the scene and was picked up by Allen, who was parked nearby. The police response and manhunt for Clemens was thought to be the largest in the history of the state of Washington, with the suspect being shuttled from one house to another by friends and family of the murderer, with the police just missing him each time. On December 1st at approximately 2:30 a.m., Seattle police officer Benjamin Kelly turned west onto South Kenyon, a quiet residential street. Kelly drove past a man who was walking alone, wearing a dark blue sweatshirt with the hood pulled up, and headed towards Martin Luther King Jr. Way. Near the street's end, Kelly saw a car with its hood up. He stopped and checked the plate. By notifying dispatch they had located a stolen car, Kelly checked his surroundings. In his rearview mirror, he saw the man in the hooded sweatshirt about 50 feet behind his car. The man stepped off the sidewalk and began walking down the middle of the street. Kelly's location was 44th and Kenyon. Kelly checked his mirror again. The man was getting closer. Kelly thought to himself, this guy isn't avoiding me. He's coming at me. The man was at the car's rear bumper when Kelly jumped down and turned to face him. The hooded man lifted his head. Recognition flooded Kelly with adrenaline. The face, the build, the telltale mole below his left eye. Kelly screamed for Clemens to show his hands. Clemens tried to pull a gun from his pocket, then began running. Kelly fired 3 shots in a burst, then 4 more, tracking Clemens as he sprinted through the fog of the Acura's exhaust. Clemens disappeared through a hedge. Kelly called the shooting in. The arriving officers found Clemens collapsed on a concrete path leading to a house. Kelly had hit him 4 times, with 2 shots fatal, each hitting a lung. An officer patted Clemens down and found Greg Richards' Glock sticking out of a pocket. The trigger guard was caught on the zipper. A lucky turn that may have made all the difference. Clemens died on the way to the hospital. A week later, approximately 20,000 mourners most being police officers and firemen from around the United States and Canada, came to the Tacoma Dome to pay their respects to the 4 officers killed by Clemens.